Am I the asshole for going on strike and refusing to clean until my kids and husband step up to help? So, I'm 36F. My husband is 38M and we have been together 14 years. Our kids are 15M, 14F and 11M. Up until about 2 years ago my kids all had chores that they did daily, but of course with them getting older, it became more of a chore for myself when trying to get them to do anything to help me out, so I stopped asking. So, that's what makes me an I think. Anyways, my husband hardly ever lifts a finger when it comes to housework. He doesn't cook, clean or even take the trash out anymore. He used to all the time. So, I hit a breaking point one day when I came home after a weekend business trip with work to a completely in shambles house. There were dirty dishes scattered and placed in various corners of my home, trash wasn't taken out, laundry was spewing over the top of our hamper, toothpaste lining the sink, etc. You get the point. I grabbed myself a nice tall glass of Crown Royal and went to my backyard, where I proceeded to sit and do nothing. My husband and kids returned home a few hours later and I chuckled to myself as they stopped dead in the doorway, look at the mess and then back at me. My husband says, "Honey, I have my boss coming for dinner tonight. Did you forget?" So I said, "Nope, what are you making for dinner?" He just sort of looked at me, but I think he realized what was going on and went in to start cooking dinner. My daughter lost it. She's like, "How am I supposed to have my boyfriend come over to a house looking like this?" So I said, good question. Maybe you should cancel. My oldest son, bless his heart, said, "Melanie, we can easily clean the house. It's obvious that Mum needs a break." He went in and cleaned the entire house, but not in time for my husband's boss to show up and see our home in disarray. My daughter's boyfriend also saw the house in shambles and looked disgusted. My daughter started crying and saying I embarrassed her and she will never forgive me. Am I the asshole? I think maybe, because it was petty and bad timing, but I was tired of not being helped. Not the asshole. Cleaning the house isn't as simple as bippity boppity done. They knew people were coming over and you were gone all weekend. How is it fair for the one person who's been gone to come home and clean up after the other three who could have been keeping up on themselves? And cook for an important guest? You def need to have a chat with them about personal responsibility and self-awareness. Not the asshole. Your husband's an ass for not helping and your kids are not gonna know how to keep up their own living space when they grow up and move out if they don't start now. Honestly, your husband and your daughter had it coming for expecting you to do all the work around the house. Not the asshole. Clear communication would be better, but your actions communicated effectively here. Your husband needs to help with chores and help you enforce chores for your children. Not the asshole. A little heads up would have been polite, like a text, "I just got home and the house is a wreck. I will be in the back with a drink, holler when you get done." But no, you've been carrying the whole family, they need to do their part. Not the asshole. Probably a bad time, but everyone has a breaking point. Hubby could always have called boss and said someone was sick to postpone dinner. After all, you were sick and tired. Time to get the kids and husband participating in household maintenance again. Not the asshole. You are their wife and mother, not their maid, and if they lived like pigs for a weekend, that is on them to clean up after themselves. They left the house like that knowing what was happening, so it is not on you. LMAO. I'm currently on day 20-ish of a cleaning strike. I told my kids that the electronics are gone until we can go a full day without trash being left on the dinner table. I'm starting to think that I might just take over one of the added lines on my Sprint account when my contract ends in 2 months because it's not getting used. Might as well, right? Ha ha ha. Totally not the asshole, and I love that you stood up for yourself. Tumbler glass, one tumbler glass, cheers. Absolutely not the asshole. It still baffles me how some women put up with double shifts, full day working and then taking on all the chores when getting home, and no one bats an eye about it. Everyone who lives in a house is responsible for it, and you deserve to stand up for yourself and stop exhausting yourself doing all the chores. It's not a woman's or a mom's role to be the goddamn housekeeper on top of everything else. Not the asshole. Part of what makes a house messy is not maintaining it in the first place. Op was on a business trip and came back home, so it was the husband's and kids' mess. Husband and daughter are the asshole for expecting her to do the brunt of the work in a span of hours after she just got home. If they knew guests were coming, then they could have at least made an effort to maintain the house so it wouldn't be so much. Her son at least made an effort to clean. Not the asshole. Karma is amazing. Not the asshole. I cannot imagine what would have happened to me if I asked my mom why the house wasn't clean because my boyfriend was coming over. Hint, I would probably still be getting slapped into next week. Your kids don't respect you. Your husband doesn't respect you. It's time for a come to Jesus meeting with all of them. Lol, not the asshole. I like your style though. You've done enough. Your kids are old enough to know how to pick up after themselves. Your husband is a grown man who seemed to expect you to come home from a business trip and then be ready to entertain his boss. Fuck that. Your daughter sounds fairly entitled if she thinks it's your job to clean up after her so she isn't embarrassed to have her boyfriend over. If it was that important, she should have done something. Your oldest son sounds like a sweetheart though. This sounds fake LMAO. Not the asshole. You take a break for one afternoon or whatever and they totally unravel at the seams. It's up to you how to parent your kids, so I won't give advice on that, but I'd totally do the same thing if my roommate and fiancé even thought they could dump all their mess onto me. Not the asshole. Your family has pushed you past the breaking point, and they all need to get their crap together. Your husband's boss, and your daughter's boyfriend, saw the reality of what your husband and daughter are like. They saw these people only help when they have no other choice. You forced the bright light of day on a broken situation, and I wish more parents would. Not the asshole. And stay and strike for a week or two. To your girl, sit down with her and have her explain rationally why it was up to you to clean up. Because it is your job. Who is paying me? Because you always do. Who made the mess? And so on until she realizes that the best way to not having to clean up messes is not making one. Not the asshole. This is the most satisfying am I the asshole I've read in ages. I don't know how anyone could think you're at fault here. You just did your share of the cleaning in this situation. Precisely 0%. Go you. I hope they shape up and learn from this. It's infinitely unfair for it to all be on you, and when it's not your mess too, the audacity. Isn't it interesting how, even in these pandemic times, some people's lives are written by 1960s sitcom screenwriters? Honey, my boss is coming for dinner. Not the asshole. They knew in advance they had people coming over, and they expected you to work your magic the same day you get back from a business trip? Nope. Yeah, you've spoiled them a bit, but they are all old enough to deal with it. Your son deserves a little bit of credit. He picked up on it instantly. Not the asshole. You weren't even home when the house was used as tornado crash zone. They made the mess so they could clean it. Glad your daughter and husband were embarrassed. Maybe they'll help out from now on. You should continue to strike a bit longer, then when you are ready establish a family chore chart. You've been together for 14 years and have a 15-year-old? Not the asshole. It sounds like you've tried to talk to them before but they haven't been listening, so I get your approach. I do agree with other comments that it was passive-aggressive, so you should communicate better with them and have a serious talk about household chores. Your husband sucks because it's ridiculous to expect you to clean right after coming home from a business trip. If he took this dinner with his boss more seriously, then he should have been on top of maintaining the house from the start. Your daughter sucks and honestly kinda sounds like a brat. The only one who I don't see as the asshole here is the son who actually cleaned up. Not the asshole. They are presumably functional humans living with you. You shouldn't even need to tell them that they need to behave in a semi-civilized manner, as opposed to having been raised by wild dogs. Not the asshole. Your daughter is. Your husband and son caught on and started doing stuff, didn't throw a tantrum, so they aren't Oz. For your daughter, you didn't embarrass her, she embarrassed herself by not cleaning beforehand and expecting you to do it. Though your son's response shows that he has internalized it's your task and you simply needed a break, you should probably bring the topic up to your whole family and work something out together. I guess you could be very slightly the asshole for doing nothing on a day where your husband's boss comes over, since you could argue that should be a priority, but not enough to change my judgment. This all sounds pretty fabricated. NGL. Not the asshole. You're my idol. Most definitely not the asshole. Your kids are old enough to take responsibility for their own messes, and your husband is a lazy enabler happily taking advantage of your previous willingness, however resentfully you were doing so, to handle it all. Good for you for putting your foot down. Could you have had better timing and told them immediately that you weren't cleaning up their crap after being gone for work all weekend? Perhaps. But would it have had the same impact? Definitely not. Not the asshole. This isn't the 1950s, your hubby needs to step up. You should have a frank conversation with the whole family about how everyone should be doing chores, cleaning etc. Not the asshole. It was bad timing, for sure, but they were your husband and daughter's events and they could have cancelled or rescheduled. I would probably recommend staying on strike for a period of time until they got the message. It's more than, mom needs a break. It's, everyone needs to step up. Once they do, I would call a family meeting, work together on a chore schedule, and, the minute they start backsliding, stop the train. Not the asshole. But it's time to drop the passive-aggressive approach and hit it head-on. You've trading the short-term pain of nagging your family for the long-term pain of having to do it all yourself. Our kids are still younger, but they know they need to keep the house nest. Every night we spend 15 minutes straightening and putting stuff away before that are allowed to watch TV. Sounds like it's time for a family meeting. I'd love to hear the answer to the question, why did you expect me to come home and clean up your mess? Not the asshole. My kids 10, 8 and 4 have to help. They put the pots in the dishwasher or sink. Make their beds, bring their own laundry baskets down and take it back up when done. They have to help put it away and make the table etc. When they have their own houses they will end up like slobs if they aren't used to doing simple things. Communication and rotas might work better here. But there's 2 adults in the house so your husband can help clean for his guests. Not the asshole. If the daughter is old enough for a boyfriend she is old enough to clean up the house. You need to have a family meeting to set up a cleaning system. Not the asshole. But maybe thank your son, maybe he was just blind in his own head and never realized that you wanted a hand. You did good. The only real way to have them clean up is not doing it for them. Well done. Not the asshole. Time to strike. Or maybe have a chore schedule for them and only do your part after all of their parts are done. Sorry I can't do laundry until you do the floors and dad does the bathroom. Get to it. Not the asshole. Thank you for teaching them all responsibility when they are young, not just your daughter. Too many mothers never make their sons learn how to care for a household and they make crappy partners in the future. If they manage to get the house so dirty during a weekend that having someone see it was so embarrassing, then they are clearly in the habit of showing no respect for the home because they figure you'll handle it. They deserved every bit of it. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Also, our petty revenge. I love it. Not the asshole. Good on your son for realizing that you need help. But I do think you need to set things straight. Tell your husband that he will help you with the chores. Tell your other 2 children that you'll take their electronics away until their daily chores have been completed. Lay down the law. Not the asshole. They're all old enough to clean and know better. Let them stew in their own filth. Wait, so they destroyed the house when you weren't even in town then were mad at you for it? Not the asshole. You aren't the only one living there. Put your foot down and implement new rules. You aren't their maid. Not the asshole. Time to have a family meeting to set expectations. Also don't do all the chores by yourself anymore. Not the asshole. They were the ones that have left the house in a complete mess so they should be able to clean it themselves. I hope you enjoyed you wine and relaxing in the garden. Open mouth smile. Not the asshole. And I would suggest something like a family chore schedule of who does what in which day for everybody including the adults. Once everyone has cooled down a bit, hold a family meeting and explain that everybody is expected to contribute. Have a list prepared and allow everyone to have a bit of a choice of what they do. Your children are old enough to contribute a bit and certainly your husband is. Absolutely not the asshole. I think you may start to have some appreciation thrown your way all of a sudden. They've finally realized how much of a mess they all make that you're expected to clean every single day. Not the asshole. If your daughter cared about how the house looked then maybe for once she should have picked up her slack and decided to clean up. I can understand as I do a lot of taking care of the house, it gets a little tiring over time. Especially when people don't give a little support. Here is karma working at its finest. Not the asshole. I may be a little biased as I go on strike about once a year. If you just keep doing it all, it won't change. But it's probably time to sit them all down and have a talk. To your daughter, you didn't embarrass her, she embarrassed herself. She had lived in the mess all weekend, and chosen not to clean it. If she is embarrassed by that, she needs to be the tidy person she wants her boyfriend to think she is. Your talk needs to include sharing out the chores, and what consequences should be if they are not done. Let them come up with this, see how they go. I always found my daughter came up with much harsher punishments than I ever would. These skills will help them a lot as they go out into the big wide world. Not the asshole, and I love you for sticking to your conviction without wavering. I, on the other hand, give in and clean even when my hands are paining because no one else does anything. The one time I asked my husband to help, he managed to make the house more muddy than before. Not the asshole. They were embarrassed of a mess they made when you were out of town. You really need to talk to your daughter about this and accountability for her own actions, cleaning up after herself.